On March 12th, 2016, the United States Navy established an elite school for the top 1% of posters. Its purpose was to teach the lost art of riffing and to ensure that the handful of men who graduated were among the most annoying in the world. Today, the Navy calls it Reply Guy Weapons School. The posters call it Chapo Trap House. Greetings, everybody. It's Chapo. We're rounding out Top Gun week here with the American Prestige Boys. Yesterday, I recorded an episode of their show about the original Top Gun, and today we are, of course, talking about the newly released Top Gun Maverick. Joining me to discuss is, of course, Matt Chrisman, call sign Squib, Danny Bessner, call sign Professor, Derek Davison, call sign Vulcan, Chris Wade, call sign Trick Shot, and Will Menaker, call sign Bobcat. Gentlemen, it's Top Gun Maverick. So
this capybara is not high T enough.
Well, it's too many syllables. I was gonna go with cat boy. You know, it's like a cowboy, but for cats.
Yeah,
that's what that refers to, right?
Yeah.
Or gentlemen, feel free to this is just my call signs for you off the top of my head, but feel free to give yourself a call sign for the duration of this podcast, where we'll be talking about.
No, that's pretty
Top
cool.
Gun.
Professor seems like that would have been a real call sign, actually.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're the guy with glasses, you're the professor.
By the way,
loser nerd.
I know we're stepping off, but like that threw me off. They can't allow guys with glasses into that program. I'm sorry. If they are letting guys with glasses,
yeah, that's actually
Top Gun, and political correctness has indeed
it's run amok. Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, Danny, Derek, we discussed the Top Gun OG, original Top Gun yesterday, but now we are on to the newly released Top Gun Maverick. So, gentlemen, just your opening thoughts on Top Gun Maverick.
Well, I just want to say I'm very excited because since we recorded yesterday's episode, I got my 5th gen fighter in the mail, and I'm looking forward to taking it for a test flight. Over the weekend. I'm pretty psyched about that. So, just 5th gen fighters for the win.
Danny, your thoughts on Top Gun Maverick?
It's really interesting because it just is the last of its kind in every way. I mean, to me, it's really a movie about movie making. It's really a movie that is such an explicit commentary on Tom Cruise's position in popular culture. Basically, like 10 minutes into him, they effectively refer to him as the last movie star, the last of his kind. And the idea being is that this kicks ass and we're all going to have a great time, but you're not going to see more of these going forward. So there's that whole military aspect, but much more so than the first one. This is really about movies in a way that the first one wasn't really at all.
See, I felt like this was what you get when you have a movie that's made to be a military training montage, basically, or sort of a recruitment montage. But you don't have Tony Scott directing and writing herd on it to make sure that it's like it's still focused on just like cool shit, like cool scenes of planes flying. It was this one got more into the weeds of like, oh, we could use the F-35, but maybe we should use the F-18, and it felt like much more military kind of, what you get when the military is sort of telling you what your script is, or what it wants to see in the script, and you're just sort of accepting it.
There isn't the sort of the auteurist vision to like contrast with the mandated Department of Defense propaganda. It's just this smooth studio machine that is also just pure propaganda. So yeah, there's less. It doesn't have the grit. Specifically, it does not have the moisture, because the one big difference between these two films, as I've talked about before, is that Top Gun is a soaking wet movie in a tradition of late 80s, early 90s, like from 86 to 96 is like the wet decade in American Hollywood cinema. When every movie, everybody is just sweating their balls off, or they just got out of the water. There's just beads everywhere. And then we just got rid of it. No more. Everyone's dry as shit now. And Top Gun, this movie is a perfect example. The original Top Gun, they're just swimming. Here, even though they're fucking on the beach playing double barrel football with each other in the pale reflection of the original volleyball scene, everyone, maybe they got some baby oil on, but like just the beaded wetness And I think I associate that, maybe because I saw these movies at a crucial developmental stage. I associate that with, yes, some heart, some vision behind the camera, some blood that's pumping that isn't just, hey, join the Naval Air Academy or whatever the fuck.
Oh, God.
Join the Navy like The Simpsons. Ivat et Niaj.
And Biden, as I think you guys have mentioned before, is our driest president. So it's very much of the era in that
it's
regard.
A very dry,
it's a dry ass era.
Yeah, I just watched the original Top Gun yesterday for Danny and Derek's pod, and you're right, Matt. All the scenes of the dudes on the aircraft carrier, like looking at bogeys on the radar, are just pouring sweat like Patrick Ewing at the foul line.
Yeah.
It's just there. There's a guy chomping a big cigar. His whole head is bicked. It's all balded up, so you can see all the sweat glistening on his giant dome.
And we even had it. We have a bald admiral in this movie. Ed Harris shows up for one scene. He's bald.
Yeah, but he looks very dry.
But he's very dry bald.
Like they chalked it up.
He looks like a skeleton. Ed Harris in the one scene he's in this movie looks like a skeleton. He looks like a skull.
Yeah, he's getting
He looks
there.
like Skullface from the Metal Gear Solid games.
I want to say, like, I mean, I don't know if there's any parallel to draw here between like the death of the fun action movie and this being like, the end of that type of film. But there were no characters in the first Top Gun who ranked even like captain or higher. And this movie is riddled with admirals who are all
the administrative bloat of the American fucking state, man.
Exactly, yeah.
Every institution in American life is now vastly more top-heavy and gerontocratic than it was at that time. Way more administrators, way more officers just dicking around and sending memos to each other.
Okay, Chris, you want to go?
Yeah, I just have one thing to add to this episode. I don't really have any takes on the movies. It was a lot of fun, whatever. The new trend of putting actual commercials inside the trailer blocks before movies is disgusting and shameful. And in fact, the entire pre-movie content block has gotten wildly out of control.
It's bad.
Mix of advertorials, prestige TV commercials, what they're doing with like the filling up the Maria Menounos segment with like bloggers and whoever Straw Hat Goofy is. It's out of control.
I will not ask for Maria Menounos.
I will accept going back to just the pre-show Maria Menounos, just Maria Menounos. Maybe you want to put some ticky-tacky ads, some ads for TV in there. Then the trailers start, and there's trailers. And when the trailers are over, the movie starts.
You don't want Nicole Kidman telling you about how good heartbreak feels in a place like this?
With her like rubber face mask.
By the way, they picked the absolute worst movie star to do that ad, because if what they're trying to do there is get people back in the theaters and fight the rising tide of like streaming content lapping at this point at the fucking hips of the cinematic film experience, you're going to put in somebody who is like one of the top A-listers to do almost exclusively streaming bullshit in the last 5 years.
It's true.
Get somebody who, there are a few stars who are holding out, and get one of them up.
Tom Cruise.
There's Tom
Leonardo
Cruise, for example.
DiCaprio, Brad Pitt.
DiCaprio is not going on any fucking TV bullshit.
Did your guys' screening start with the brief message from Tom Cruise there to assure you that these are real F-18s?
His quaff was amazing.
I little bit appreciated that.
But yeah,
Matt, to your point, that whole like the confusion of what that whole pre-show block is, where it moves seamlessly from ads and then maybe something that looks like a commercial, but then turns out to be an ad, and then here's a trailer, but no, it's a trailer for a prestige TV show, and then a few trailers, and then an ad, and then the movie starts. It is giving the absolute wrong message that this is all just content. This is all just slurry.
Streaming slurry.
Right.
It devalues the movies. Get that shit out of there. All right, that's my only take for the movie. I'll let you guys go at it.
Absolutely. Co-sign all of that.
What they should put in is
I'll take half an hour of credits, but I'll take half an hour of trailers, but that's it. Just give me trailers.
There should just be a brief message with Mr. Burns singing "Let's all go to the lobby."
Well, that's necessary. You need the CGI thing where you're like, you're in a roller coaster going, and there's like you're getting hit in the face by Raisinets. You can keep that.
All right. Before we get into the movie, I simply have to register my thoughts on Top Gun Maverick. It is simply this. Top Gun Maverick is an OT level 7 movie. And despite what you may hear, it's an OT level 7 movie. And despite what you may hear or what anyone says on this podcast, if they have anything even slightly critical to say of Top Gun Maverick, they are SP, suppressive persons, or PTS, potential trouble sources. They are PC pre-clear. This is a movie. This is a movie that that analyzes PTP, present time problems, second dynamics, and affinity, reality, and communication, and MEST, material things from matter, energy, space, and time. If I could say one thing, even if I could dent this otherwise unalloyed masterpiece with just one simple criticism, it is this: it is not gay at all. Whereas the first movie is only Kenneth Anger has made a movie gayer than Tony Scott's original Top Gun.
Yeah.
So Top Gun Maverick, it is denuded of all homoeroticism.
Like every other big movie made nowadays.
Yes.
It's part of the fucking trend. Everything is drier in every sense. The passion has drained out of it. They don't fucking movies anymore.
There is sort of
they don't
an
have
uncle.
like gay. They don't have fucking movies anymore, and they don't have crackling sexual energy of any kind, suppressed, overt. It's all just been completely drained of anything other than like just that Marvel removed sarcasm. That's the only way you could anybody.
You can view the like Goose Maverick relationship as a sort of uncle nephew storyline, which
yes, absolutely
helps a little, but yeah,
which
it's not gay at
and
all.
it confirms to the
Rooster.
Rooster.
A rooster, yeah.
No, that's Uncle.
Rooster,
That's Uncle Magic. Totally not gay. Excuse me, sir.
Nothing
gay about Uncle Magic.
No, I'm just saying it's sort of a replacement for the gay magic of the first one.
You know, I mean,
it pales.
Pete Maverick
Sort of the opposite
Mitchell.
of the Northman, I realized. Like you know your dad, and then you run away, and then you come back, and you're like, actually, you're pretty cool.
Not a lot of Uncle Magic in that one.
Pete Maverick Mitchell and Goose's son, Rooster.
Goose's son, Rooster. That got a chuckle out of me when I first heard that, I will say.
They definitely have an Uncle Magic relationship. They're retaining semen together and studying the knowledge of the ancient proto-wolves. He is building a magnificent nephew in Rooster. I will say though, it's just like if you once you take out the homoeroticism from Top Gun, I will say this though, Tom Cruise has upgraded his firmware as it relates to relating to women on screen.
Yes,
his relationship with Jennifer Connelly in this movie seems like something that two human beings could actually like conceive of. Unlike his relationship with Kelly McGillis in the first Top Gun, which, as Derek and Danny and I discussed yesterday, one of the weirdest things ever.
Strange,
just a very strange portrayal of the romance between two adults.
The subplot with Jennifer Connelly, that could be a Nicholas Sparks movie. Like it's got the nice, well-appointed bar. It's got sailing.
Yeah,
it's got flying around in a classic World War II airplane. That's literally like a woman's picture. None of that weird, creepy, like what's going on here? Do I have a fever thing you get from watching the original Top Gun relationship?
And that's kind of a problem with the movie's charm, right? Like Matt, you were saying, it doesn't have the Tony Scott choppiness of it, and that is, I think, a loss. It works better as a movie in a sense than the first one. It makes a lot more logical sense. The relationships make more sense. It flows better. There's no just totally disjointed scenes like the Great Balls of Fire scene, which becomes key to this entire movie, which is kind of funny. But I think it works better as a traditional movie, but it's not as vital. It doesn't have the early 19th century romanticism of Tony Scott.
But what this movie does have, and has in abundance, is probably the coolest sequences of people flying fucking fighter planes ever put to film.
Amazing.
I will say that.
The F-18, just all the fucking dogfighting scenes in this movie with real fucking planes are thrilling, incredible.
Yeah.
Just it's like you can see the actors get hit with like 10 G's pulling some of those turns.
Like I do think that's sort of honestly a weak link in Top Gun, the original, is that for me anyway, a lot of the airplane scenes, I feel like I'm watching Wings, or like Hell's Angels, directed by Howard Hughes. Just like it kind of feels like sometimes it feels like stock footage, and because it's hard, it's very hard to do aerial combat because there's no points of reference and stuff, and there's no like fixed terrain. But they did it in this one. I was like, damn.
They did it really well.
Absolutely riveting. Well done. That's what you get for the advances in technology. That's the double-edged sword of progress there.
Yeah, you could feel the motion in this one.
Let's dive into the film itself. So I was like, I saw it with Catherine, and we're sitting there, like the lights come down, waiting for the movie to start. And I just turned to Catherine, and I'm like, this movie will be a success if I hear just one little bit, just a little crumb of the god Kenny Loggins. How does the movie begin? Exactly the same way as the first one. You got the title card about the fighter weapons program. You hear that bell ring, doom, and then the afterburners kick off. Jet flies off an aircraft carrier, goes right into Highway to the Danger Zone, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right, I'm thinking I'm going to enjoy this movie. You get Danger Zone right out of the gate. You get Danger Zone, and then it grounds you in the original Top Gun, but then it's like, okay, it's like 40 years later. And we meet up with Pete Maverick Mitchell, Tom Cruise, and he is now a test pilot. And the first part of the movie is he's flying an experimental Lockheed Martin jet, and yes, you do see the Lockheed Martin logo prominently displayed.
It worked. I mean, they worked with the filmmakers on this.
Yeah,
very closely.
So here's my opening question of the movie. So the movie begins with Tom Cruise flying an experimental aircraft that can go Mach 10, like a spaceship, basically. Goes Mach 10, but then a huge part of the plot of this movie is that a rogue nation, who's our adversary, unnamed, but we can fill in the gaps there, has access to fifth-gen fighter planes.
Fifth-gen fighters!
Fifth-gen fighters that the American military and the Navy does not have. Apparently, we've been lapped in fighter plane technology by fucking Iran. And then, they just keep saying that Iran has PS5s, and we're stuck here on Xbox.
Of course we have fifth generation fighters, and they mention one of them in the movie when they're talking about how they have to do this mission to blow up this reactor. They say we could use this would be ideal for the F-35, but they have GPS scramblers, so we can't use it. It's like that's the pitch for the fifth generation fighters of America. This thing that costs $7 trillion could be thwarted by Norton antivirus.
I picked this up at Radio Shack, and the F-35 is grounded.
So I'm sorry. So these guys have scrambler GPS scramblers. Presumably that's an available technology. So when will the F-35 ever be useful then?
Yeah, it's a cell phone.
Or you're not going to deal with this firewall that protects installations from F-35s.
So we get a thrilling scene in the beginning of the movie of Tom Cruise going Mach 10, and then but against Maverick being Maverick, disobeying the direct orders of General Raisin Kane, played by Ed Harris, who's he's the drone. He's the drone admiral.
He's the crusty old dean who wants to replace pilots with drones. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, he's, by the way, he's correct. There's no need to have pilots fly planes at all anymore now with drones. But that's just not cool. And Top Gun, Pete Maverick Mitchell, he's Ed Harris is your time is over. The time of cool fighter jocks like you is going away. It's just going to be guys in trailers in Nevada just playing on a joystick. And then Tom Cruise is like, maybe, but not today. And so he gets shit canned from the Mach 10 program, and they send him right back to the Top Gun fighter school to teach a gang of former Top Gun graduates who are being trained for a special mission to attack the civilian nuclear energy program of a rogue nation that is obviously Iran.
Yeah, Iran.
It's like a bunker that's at the base of a mountain, heavily fortified, but it's about to come online. Look, Iran is 3 weeks away from being able to produce their own chemotherapy drugs. And
that's right.
The Navy Fighting Weapons School, this is what it was made for, to stop things like that from happening.
This was where I started
defiance of a multilateral NATO treaty, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Very specifically mentioned.
So much better at obfuscating the bad guy, who the bad guys were in the first Top Gun. It's so obvious that this is Iran. You watch the first one and you're like, I mean, is it the Soviets? Is it China? Is it somebody else? I don't know.
I thought it was Libya.
But maybe it's the bad guy in the Iron Eagle film, which we talked about yesterday. But this one is like, we didn't even put any thought into it. It's just clearly Iran, but Iran with that doesn't fly F4s, which are like 50 years old at this point. They're flying 5th gen fighters somehow.
They got,
But I actually
Iran
like that.
The Russians gave them to them. That's what happened.
But that's what I actually appreciate about both of these movies is that it doesn't matter who the enemy is. And that's the logic of the American empire. It just continues. There's no geostrategic anything, any justification for anything. It doesn't fucking matter. The United States is just going to pulverize whoever it wants, when it wants, around the world, wherever. So I actually really do appreciate that about both of these movies. They don't even pretend to give a shit about who the enemy might be. By the way, it should be China, but they obviously can't do that for the Chinese market. But so I really like that. It's just like, yeah, there's a boogeyman. Go after and kill them. There's no real reason why.
But they put a lot of work into creating a like threat that people would find legitimate in this one that they didn't have to do 35 years ago or whenever. And you could just assert that there's countries out there that are, have strong militaries that are, have nukes that could kill us. This time, I mean, they have the enrichment thing, and also it's like in a valley that's, basically the last 20 minutes of Star Wars if you want to attack it. And also they have 5th gen fighters. Like all the work that has to go in to creating a threat in this one is like right out there to sort of observe.
Yeah, and that's a modern thing.
You got to okay, it's a rogue nation that also has the most advanced aircraft in the world and all this. It's like, all right, sure, whatever. This non-existent country that we can plant country X.
Right.
Where we can just take all of our disparate anxieties about existing countries that we have in the real world and like conglomerate them into one other that we use the military to pulverize, which is, yes, that's how we sell it. It's like, we need this thing to do that job and also to make men who can do that job, because the premise of all these sort of movies is like the real point of the U.S. military is to make guys like Maverick, is to make people rise to the occasion and fulfill virtues, and then be people that can lead and inhabit our institutions. Like that is the purpose of all the military conflict, is that it makes us into Tom Cruises. Like that's
ironically, he gets yelled at by admirals.
Right. Well, that's part of it, though.
He's like McGonagall.
Part of being a hero. Part of being a hero is you have to take initiative and you have to violate the law. Like that's part of the essential dilemma of it, right? Is that like you need people at a certain point to break the rules if they can truly rise to the occasion. Because if you just follow the rules until the end of the line, you will be annihilated by the machine.
And that's Tom Cruise's entire thing. For his entire career, of course, has been to basically play out that figure. And it was already ridiculous in 1986 when Top Gun came out. But in 2022, it's so absurd. They could think about the American soldier being this vitalist, romantic war hero who's going to be dogfighting, right? It's not only back then we were just bombing. Now it's not even people in planes bombing. It's literally just drones. So it's
right. And apparently this movie
compelling.
Was originally supposed to be, I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, I was hearing Top Gun 2 about drones. And at some point they said no, because it's not heroic.
They're so boring.
We don't want to tell boring. We can't tell the real story. We can't have Tom Cruise involved in telling the real story of a military that that machine we told you builds characters. It literally hollows them out.
Yeah.
Right.
You psychopath.
You couldn't even have them flying F-35s, as they mentioned, in the beginning of the movie. Because the F-35 expressly is not designed to do dogfighting. It's designed to like lay off 1,000 miles away and pulverize something over the horizon. It's sort of like in a space between a drone and a plane that could be used in a air-to-air context.
Also, I read that one of the reasons that they didn't use the F-35 is that the cockpit doesn't look cool. The cockpit doesn't give like that dramatic like one person in charge of a stick thing that the F-18 does. So they're like, this is lame. It looks like they're driving a fucking Pontiac Aztec. Get out of here. Looks like they're they're gonna get a fucking cappuccino from the drive-thru at Starbucks in their Land Rover. Get out of here.
And another thing Derek and Danny and I talked about yesterday as far as the original Top Gun goes, it's like in the entire military, like there is nothing cooler than being a fighter pilot.
Absolutely.
Because but in the actual nature of war, like bombers are way more important than fighter jets. But like any movie about bombers is just reveals the squalid, depressing nature of war, which is just like, oh, we have the mission to like take out the enemy's water treatment facilities. But when it's like it's two gleaming steel cocks just jousting in the sky, you can engage. Like Danny, you were talking about like the whole myth of like air power was like the myth of kind of like a bloodless war, where like the best, most alpha jocks of two countries who are warring with each other just come together and just fuck each other to death in the sky, and that determines who wins and loses the war. Great. I wish all wars were fought like that, but that's not really why we have airplanes that can, shoot missiles and bombs from a great height in our military arsenal.
All
that's
it's
not
left to do is to tell the story.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to hear the real thing it is. So we still need this. We still need these programs.
Yeah.
We still need these machines. Just fun because it provides massive amounts of graft throughout the military-industrial complex, keeps all those factories and all those different states that all make different components for the thing that they put together like fucking Legos afterwards. It does all that, but it also tells a story of war that could possibly be heroic.
Yeah, yeah.
And it tells
convey heroism as like a value that is brought into being.
And it's the oldest story of war. It's Hector versus Achilles. It's a one-on-one dog
the old
fighting.
Greek
Most
heroic.
It's literally this is not to be too hoity-toity, but Top Gun really operates in like a mythic register. It's like a real deal movie. It feels different from Marvel movies because it's operating on sort of that mass mythic level that so few movies do any longer.
Which, and by the way, that makes it very funny that one of the chief defenses of superhero movies is, well, actually, they're modern they're modern myths. It's like, no,
totally wrong.
No, this is a modern myth. It's not just that. Oh, he's got superpowers like the gods do. What are you, 12 years old? It's that
this is about valor and
the stories are in the mythic structures that like hit our grooves. As opposed to, what do we do to get Captain Bongo to meet Professor Dipshit?
And by the way, Matt,
pitch the next movie.
By the way, I've seen a lot of people try to block the shine of Top Gun Maverick by saying like, I'm seeing a lot of people who shit on the Marvel movies for being military propaganda, just cream themselves over Top Gun Maverick, which is explicitly military propaganda. And I'm saying, yes, it is, but it happens to be good and effective
it's
propaganda.
Good.
It's good.
Movies are supposed to be good. They're not good for you.
Here's the thing, though. Like, when Chris Hemsworth does his hammer shit, there's no weight to it at all. It's just they're prancing around in front of a green screen. In Top Gun Maverick, I swear to God, there's a scene where I can see Miles Teller shit himself when that plane hits like 6 or 7 Gs. Like, that's movie fucking magic right there. That's fucking movie magic. So yes, of course, Top Gun is military propaganda. As successful as Top Gun Maverick has been, and it's a fucking blockbuster already, I don't think it will juice the Navy's recruitment numbers the same way the original Top Gun did. I'm going on a limb here.
It honestly does make it terrifying. There's one detail that's just has still stuck with me, and movies of this size do not stick with me anymore. Like shit through a goose. It's when they're doing the final bombing run and they're getting engaged with by the fucking surface air missiles and stuff. The rear, like the laser target guy, the nerd, the glasses guy. Bob, played by Lewis Pullman. So he's like he's looking to try to get a visual of where these planes are for the pilot. And when he turns his back to look back, he takes his hand and he puts his hand on the inside of the bubble on the window. And for some reason that just struck me like that's like a unconscious like movement. I would always assume you keep your hands on the stick or whatever, but it showed vulnerability and like real fear. And it's like when Dr. Bongo is running through the streets, no one is scared of anything. Nothing bad can happen to anyone. Like this glasses guy could absolutely get turned into paste, and this movie still fucking works.
Well, so like I said, back to the plot of the movie. Maverick Mitchell is sent back to the Top Gun school to train the best Top Gun graduates to do a war crime against the sovereign nations.
Illegal, unauthorized military action in a sovereign nation.
Okay, so we already had Admiral Raisin Kane, played by Ed Harris, but the real stupid chief in this movie is former Top Gun graduate Warlock, played by John Hamm. And here's what I'll say: I thought John Hamm was great in this movie, and I'll say this: I like John Hamm when he's playing a real fucking prick, like in Richard Jewell. in this. I don't like when John Hamm tries to yuck it up. When he tries to be a funny, cool, nice guy, it doesn't work for me. But when John Hamm is a real motherfucker, that's when he comes out to shine. And John Hamm was a great foil for Cruise in this movie. He's the head of the illegal war crime operation, and of course is the stupid chief who's just like, oh, like stop being cool. You have to stop being cool, Maverick.
Damn it! Damn it, Maverick.
Damn it! This is the Navy. He's like, the only reason you're here, he's like, you were not. Just so you know, you were not my first choice. You're only here because of the occluded admiral in this movie, Iceman Kazansky. Iceman Kazansky. That's right. Yeah. He's chilling in the Admiral's Club for most of this movie, but Val Kilmer as Iceman is back. And I tweeted this the other day. Out of all of the details in this movie, the one that really sealed it for me, like my favorite moment of the movie, was not any of the incredible dogfights, was not the hitting 8Gs and like a pure, just straight up, like, just pure arc, just straight into the air. My favorite part of the movie is when Maverick and Ice are texting each other, like presumably on Grindr. That's how they communicate. And there's just a bubble of text that just says Ice is typing. That hit me in my heart so much. I love that. But then, okay, so Tom Cruise, Maverick, he only gets this job because the occluded Admiral Iceman is still protecting his career after he should have been drummed out of the Navy decades ago, probably. But then we meet the new characters, the new fighter jocks, and you've got Coyote, you've got Payback, you've got Hangman, you've got Phoenix, and then you've got Rooster. the son
also Fanboy.
Yes,
Fanboy. My least favorite. That's like, I was like, okay,
that
no,
was a
thank
cringe
you.
immediately.
And of course, Bob, which I thought was a funny joke because he doesn't have a call sign. He's just like, I'm Bob. It's just everyone calls me Bob. So, and then it's a little bit like I think a little bit of tribute to the "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" scene where Tom Cruise tries to have carnal knowledge of a woman this time on the premises of the bar. So like all the cool new fighter jocks, like they don't know that Tom Cruise is their teacher yet, and they meet him in the bar and they humiliate him by throwing him out because he can't pay his tab. But there's already some beef between Rooster and Maverick because Maverick, of course, killed his father, but also not so much that he pulled Rooster's application from the Naval Academy and hurt his career because he was just like
took 4 years away from his career.
So many war crimes he could have committed by then.
He had to go to grad. He had to go to grad school in those 4 years. Just avoid reality a little bit.
This is weird, right? I mean, like he pulls his application, but then 4 years later? Like you only get one of those if you're in the Navy. Like if you're a captain, you can only pull like one kid's application for the Naval Academy. Like he couldn't do it again. He was blocked somehow.
And this is
why he let him do it the second time. Because presumably he would have had to.
He just forgot about it.
He could have done like a Navy ROTC at a school or at his school or something. So that's what he should have done, or something along those lines. But Matt, I actually had a question because we didn't get to talk about it yesterday. But like, what's your take on the California aspect of the movie? Because in the first one, it makes more sense. California is a liminal space. Maverick, there's that whole gay subplot about Maverick, finding himself, the life and death of being Top Gun. But what do you think in this one, the role that California, and also like we'll talk about on our episode, the sort of Tony Scott of it all with the beautiful oranges and stuff. So what do you think California plays here? Because in some sense, it's even more of a setting than in the first one.
I mean, I think it plays its traditional role as embodiment of like finitude, like America ends at California, literally. America has to like self-reflect in California for the first time. And these recent movies by Tom Cruise, this one more than anyone, is really him in that process of like reckoning with his limitations, because he's starting to crack a little bit. You can tell. I mean, yes, he's still willing to try to kill himself at every movie he makes now, but you can see like the lines are forming. Like he did that filler thing where he looked like Norm Macdonald, and then he pulled those out, and then like the creases are starting to happen. There's one line in this movie. The first line he says to them when he's introducing the mission is, "Time is your biggest adversary."
Yes.
Right.
And then he says it again at the end of the setup.
Yeah.
He sandwiches it. And then he's looking, and that shot is him looking straight at the camera, filling the screen and you can see the lines, time is your greatest adversary. And like, yeah, this movie is all about him. And of course, by extension, America, the empire he represents, reflecting on like how do you process like the reality of decline when you are not built to confront that, when you are literally designed to suppress and sublimate that. How do you deal with that new, like, impossible cognitive dissonance? How do you deal with holding that notion in your head more and more as you age, as you recognize, as you experience actual decline? How do you reckon with it? And the answer that Tom Cruise gives us and that America is giving us is, you fucking put the goddamn pedal to the goddamn metal. Because the American death now, David Foster Wallace and Felix Biederman agree on this, is somebody driving headfirst into a concrete pylon in a fucking Lamborghini. That is it. That is the only way to end this, is that you just have to take what you are doing that is killing you and do it more. And so that is why every one of these Mission Impossible movies, Cruise is doing a more and more extreme stunt. If he dies during one of them, he will have succeeded.
Valhalla.
Yes, 1,000%. So then why don't they kill him in the movie? I thought that he had to die.
Because he has to really die. What I'm saying is, like,
right, okay,
he can't die even
not
in the
Maverick.
movie. He cannot accept it. Like, yeah, he does the I'm going to sacrifice myself thing, but then the narrative can't kill him. He cannot be killed. We can accept feeling like good people for trying to sacrifice, but we cannot accept having the consequences for that. Like, our narratives can't. Our narratives are built on the opposite. Forward forever, always winning, always victorious, America continuing. We cannot process it. Tom Cruise can't process it. So when he goes to do the noble sacrifice that should be like him coming to terms with decline. Okay, if I'm going to decline, then let my death mean something. He tries to do it. They won't let him. And you get that great scene where they both survive and they're yelling at each other. Like, how did you? Because it's not supposed to happen. There's only supposed to be one person there. That's supposed to be Miles Teller, but he can't do it, which means that in real life, he is going to have to fall off of like the International Space Station or whatever the fuck is going to kill him in one of these movies.
Like Brad Pitt in Solaris.
Burn up on re-entry.
Yeah. And just like we are going to just collapse into oblivion from within rather than recognize and try to step down from where we are. A system that insists, no, we have to have 6th-gen fighters. Well, literally every other element of our social structure is dissolving like like a goddamn it's dissolving like fucking cotton candy in the first row at SeaWorld.
Even the fifth gen fighters
we
don't
have to
work.
have 5th-gen fighters.
But we have to have 6th gen.
We have to have 8th-gen fighters so that we can blow this thing up at once, so that we can make an act that we delusionally think is gonna keep us going, that ends up being our nemesis, because we cannot step down. We cannot look at the reality of decline, of time, what it really means. We can't look inward. So we have to just press the accelerator. And that leaves us in a situation where this movie is supposed to end with the Miles Teller getting in the F-814 and flying home, and instead you got this old motherfucker hanging around.
It's kind of like when he would have let Jeremy Renner replace him in Mission Impossible. It's the same thing. It's like he can't step down. He has to go into the wall.
Exactly. Cavill, they set up Cavill in that. I don't think, is it the most recent? The one.
Yeah, it's the most recent one.
Yes,
it's the most recent one.
Oh, Cavill, not Renner. Sorry.
They set him up like the same way they brought in Shia LaBeouf for Harrison Ford, but then halfway through the movie, actually he's evil. Actually, he has to be destroyed. And then, by the way, they're doing another Indiana Jones. Guess what? No Shia LaBeouf. 85,000-year-old Harrison Ford.
Well, speaking about just slamming your foot down on the accelerator and just going straight into a wall. The mission particulars themselves in this movie are like, okay, so like they're attacking one of Iran's heavily fortified uranium enrichment plants, which is basically at the bottom of like a caldera. But the accent, to get to the point where they can drop their laser guided bombs, they need to. It's 2 sets of 2, one to paint the target and the other to drop the bomb. And then the first bomb opens up the hole, and then the second one blows up the whole motherfucker. It's basically like the Death Star, there's
it is
one
the Death Star.
exhaust
It's exactly the Death Star.
It's a
down
vent.
to the young pilot who's still learning the ways of the Force has to bomb it without his tracking device.
Yeah,
because the fucking laser doesn't work. The whole thing is the last sequence of Star Wars,
and it's like he's doing the use the Force Luke thing to him,
and he says, "Don't think, just do."
Eyes.
Yeah. He says, like, Tom Cruise literally says, Maverick says to Rooster, he's like, you gotta fly instinctually. If you think up there, you're dead. And like, I think at one point he literally says, "Don't think, do." So yeah, he's on that Yoda tip. But also crucially, to get to the caldera where like they do an inverted thing, like they do an inverted like arc over the top of the first, like the lip of the rim of the mountain, and then they got to hit the target and then just pull straight up and pull like 9 Gs for like 10 seconds, which like most pilots you just black out, like it's just your brain just turns off. But before that, they have to fly below 500 feet, like 500 feet off the ground through a canyon system that like weaves in and out to avoid the surface, the SAM batteries, the SAM missiles. So they got to fly under the missile batteries and do this like all in under 2.5 minutes or something like that.
The SAM batteries, which for some reason, even though they launched this barrage of Tomahawks to take out the air base, they can't fucking shoot, even though they know where the SAMs are.
Yes.
They can't fucking blast these SAM batteries for some reason.
I'm trying to think of any explanation that maybe because they're right on the edges of the canyon, right?
Yeah, they're right at like the top of the
garbage and like Rebel.
I don't know.
Be able to fly in there.
I doubt it.
Because like if they blew them all up,
too much
they
debris.
wouldn't worry about the canyon, right? They could just go right in.
But and many times in this movie, like John Hamm comes up to the edge of basically saying this is a suicide mission for anyone who does it. And about halfway through the movie, like he's trying to train all the pilots, like they have like in their nav computer, like they're practicing doing the run, and like none of them can get it right. So John Hamm's like, okay, we're just going to give you more time to do this, which just is like the longer it takes, like the longer, like the higher your likelihood of just dying doing this. And then, like, once again, against orders, Maverick Mitchell takes a plane out and, like, does the run in, like, under 2 minutes, 15 seconds and just shows them all how to do that. And then at that point, they're like, oh, like, I guess you should just fly this mission.
Yeah, that was out pretty early.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a second. This is a suicide mission. No one else can fly it other than Pete Maverick Mitchell. But why even have this thing of like, oh, you have to teach these kids how to do it? Like, they're young. They're at the prime of their life. Tom Cruise, Maverick Mitchell's been trying to die for the last 30 years. He's got no wife, no kids.
They need 3 other pilots because they need the 2 packages. They need the laser because you need one to paint the target with laser and the other to fire the rocket.
Yeah.
So you need 2 sets, you need 2 rockets. They set that up. So you need 3 fighters. But the fact that he wasn't just at the beginning assumed to be the fucking team leader is insane. You need to get 3 guys, not 4 guys. Because the first training montage is they just do dogfighting and like, whoever gets
he washes all of
whoever
them.
gets tone first on the other one wins. And they all have to do like push-ups. And it's just this montage of him owning everybody and never getting shot down. And it's like they're still expecting him to just like go, all right, good luck, guys. Okay. The guy who's clearly superior to all of you, by far the best player on the team. I'm going to just hang out on the bench giving you the thumbs up.
I give John Hamm a lot of credit here because he gets the absolute most cliched line in the movie where he's like, Maverick, I don't know whether to drum you out of the Navy or make you the leader of this goddamn mission.
Yep.
And he actually manages to pull it off, but it's like, oh my God, that's so cringy. Come on. But that's where it ends with him as the new leader of the team.
Is there a McCain link here with the Maverick? I don't know if McCain was already nicknamed that in the early 80s. He probably was, but he's another Navy flyer who was nicknamed Maverick. I've never been able to find anything, but there has to be.
I don't know if he had that reputation.
Was that his call sign, or just what he started calling himself after he was in Congress?
I'm
pretty sure it was a Congress thing.
I mean, his record as an aviator, he should be fucking Goose.
Piss poor.
He should be Goose, not Maverick.
Yeah, Kamala Harris just honored it.
I mean, he was still in the wake of the what was the banking scandal?
Yeah,
Keating, savings and loans.
It was a rebranding after the Keating 5 thing. He should have. He should have been Daddy's boy. That should have been his call sign.
Junior.
Yeah.
According to one post that I found, not many sites, but a few people backing it up. It was Playboy.
Playboy. Nice.
I mean, Maverick would have been a good call sign because while you mainstream pilots keep your planes in the air, fucking John McCain just crashes them because he doesn't give a shit. He's a fucking.
They're
Maverick.
supposed to
He's gonna
not
wreck
be on
this
fire.
shit. Yeah.
Okay, if that's what the rule book says.
Well, speaking of speaking of wrecking airplanes, it's in this movie, but it's also a big part of the first movie. It's something that always pissed me off. It's like whenever they're reaming out Maverick or something, they're like, you almost crashed a $30 million airplane. They're like, hey, they're like, that plane doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the taxpayers. Think of the taxpayers. And whenever I saw that, it always pissed me off because I'm like, yeah, it belongs to the taxpayers. I can't fly a fucking F-18. The guy in the box, it's his goddamn plane. I don't care if he fucking crashes it or not. He's got the skills. It's the man with the fucking stick in between his legs. That's it.
Yeah, and they're also worried about budgets. Like, Harris is really worried about a budget. Plane. How much money can they possibly? It's like moving around money.
They give them more money than they ask for every year.
Literally every general and admiral says we need less money.
They say, please, no more Abrams tanks, please. We're full. Yeah. We literally have no.
They say they don't want
them, haven't they? They said, look, we have too many Abrams tanks. We don't need any more. Stop making them. And they're like, no, there's factories that make them, so you're going to have more Abrams tanks. So they just stuff themselves.
Ranking officers who say they don't need weapons. So it just made no sense from the very beginning that they had to shut down the Mach 10 test program.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it would be either or. Like it's not both.
Right.
Like it's drone army and this thing that can go into space.
It's explicitly both. I mean, this is the F-35 angle when they revealed the plane and revealed that it couldn't do any dogfighting. It was like, well, we'll send them up as each F-35 pilot is going to be like the commander of his own drone swarm, and like the drones will do all the actual fighting, and the F-35 will just be the hub. So I mean, it's clearly both, and it's not either or.
Always, and the end result is that total organizational creature who's had all their humanity drained out of them.
Chris found this bit of trivia for me. In the 21st century, the U.S. military has exactly one confirmed air-to-air kill. It was an F-18 in Syria in 2017, shot down what I'm assuming was basically the Red Baron's plane. It was like Snoopy was flying the plane that they shot down.
Down a MiG that it was
a doghouse. Yeah.
Yeah, they should brought the MiGs back.
And fucking Tom Cruise has 3 in this movie. He fucking splashes 3 bogeys in this movie, bringing his all-time kill count up to 5.
He's
an ace.
Yeah,
he's an ace.
He's Eddie Rickenbacker over here.
You guys
it's revealing, isn't it, that he shoots down 3 planes in the first movie and that's it. Like you get to this movie 35 years later, he's still only shot down 3 planes.
Apparently,
we haven't had any opportunity to do that.
He bombed the hell out of Bosnia and Iraq. They point out. So he did that. He was not doing dogfighting. Yeah, we just gloss over all of the. It's like how in the Minions movie they show the Minions like being like the loyal allies of the worst evil figures of the era. And then in the 30s, they go to Antarctica to just hang out for 30 years because they don't want to have the Minions serving Hitler. It's like, and then Maverick did cool dogfights. It's like Knights of the Sky stuff. Then some depleted uranium shell. A hospital. If you
yada,
music
water supply, et cetera, et cetera.
Baghdad's water supply.
What's always so funny to me is both Top Guns are about bringing back the lost art of dogfighting. But if you've ever gone to the Smithsonian World War II exhibit, and you look at a German pilot, they have 700 kills, and an American pilot will have 40. The difference is it's not a big American thing, which is kind of funny that it's become the lost art of dogfighting, because the American air power has always been about bombing. That is the only reason that America has an air force, is to bomb as an independent strategic mission. So Top Gun is always out of time. It always feels a little dreamy. It's very much in that Tom Cruise space.
Yes.
And actually, that reminds me of I can think of one American war movie, or one that comes to mind that's specifically about bomber pilots rather than fighter pilots, and they make it a point of pride, is John Milius's Flight of the Intruder with Willem Dafoe and Danny Glover, about the illegal bombing of Hanoi during Vietnam. And there's a scene where the main character goes, fighters get the glory, but bombers make history. And like that's true. Like that is how we win wars, is fucking saturation bombing. It's not there is scenes in Top Gun, in both Top Guns, where planes are like flying at 700 miles an hour, firing bullets at each other. Bullets in the air. And like
the funniest
it's straight up 1v1.
Is that like the war we actually fight in the air is the relentless bombing campaign that kills tons of civilians. It's not some noble chivalric joust in the sky. But the thing is, neither of those are the reason that we win wars historically. It's just stuff we do because we have to have a military to do something. We just destroy. Yeah. That's all it does.
And that was actually proven with the 8th Air Force during World War II. Like, they bombed the shit out of Germany, and it just didn't win the war. You still had to have the invasion. Yeah, the only thing was the atomic bomb, and that was
in concert with like Soviet entry in the war, and like there's still
the firebombing of Tokyo
going on. Because the promise of air power in World War II was we're not going to have to invade Europe, and it never worked. And then during Vietnam, more bombs than during World War II, and we lost.
Well, we were talking about yesterday in the original Top Gun episode, like the scene where like they first come into the Top Gun program, and Michael Ironside's jester is giving them the spiel about the Top Gun program, and he's like, in Korea, our KD ratio was 12-1. In Vietnam, that went down to 3-1. But by the end of the war, we were back up to 12-1. It's like, oh, great job, asshole!
Team,
fuck all for winning the war.
Like they were getting shot down. They were getting shot down by like Vietnamese Air Force planes.
And so I think some
what are you bragging about? You're the United States military.
And also in Korea, when he bragged about that statistic, that is the highest per capita death rate war of the 20th century, all from bombing. It's like the destruct. I think I think almost every village in North Korea was like hit by a bomb during that war. It's so horrible.
But it was in many ways the coolest war from the standpoint of aerial dogfighting, because that is the one war where you have like peer-to-peer jet aircraft like dogfighting each other. And there were actual instances of U.S. Sabres having dogfights with Soviet jets over Korea. Like that's the only point where we have like a documented point-to-point conflict, hot war conflict between the U.S. and the Soviet Union in the air over Korea. So that was cool. Fucking
wasn't Ted Williams involved?
Yeah, Ted Williams was doing that shit.
Teddy
Baseball, fighter pilot
during
the Korean War and World War II. And then, had nothing to do with the war, though. We still ended up tying.
well,
not after murdering people for 3 years.
Well, in the universe of Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick, rest assured that our naval aviators get the job done. They're like, so Rogue State, Iran, bye-bye. No civilian nuclear energy program. No cancer drugs. That bad boy goes bye-bye. So yeah, like the mission isn't a success. As Matt alluded to, spoiler alert, you think Maverick sacrifices himself to save Goose's son Rooster, but then Rooster disobeys orders and saves Maverick. They both get shot down, and I was like, is the end of this movie just going to be them like tearfully on like a news photo, on the news, just saying like, I have committed many crimes against the People's Republic. I've committed many crimes against the Islamic Republic. I should be punished. I wanted to apologize to my family and to the people of this rogue nation. And then they just get like tortured to death, and rightly so for their
See, now that would be a movie. End it with that.
No, but like they make sure to say that like, and they blow up the runway, but they're like, okay, but like we're gonna leave these hangars untouched because they have a lot of old antique planes. So Maverick and Rooster, they got to get the hell out of Dodge in the classic Top Gun original F-14.
I feel like you could almost make an argument that like Tom Cruise actually died and it's all like a dream afterward with the F-14, because that's so ridiculous that they would have an F-14 from the original movie. Like, so it's actually like he's fantasizing about saving Goose's son and flying away from the F-14, because that makes more sense than him surviving that crash. That makes absolutely no sense.
No. For narratively, like the story makes sense if he sacrifices himself.
Right.
As it stands, there's a hilarious scene where after Goose Jr., what the
Rooster.
fuck? Rooster comes back, shoots down a helicopter that is about to machine gun Tom Cruise after he's crash landed. Which, I'm sorry, they would absolutely take that guy as a prisoner of war. That would be a huge propaganda coup. They don't want to kill him. but it's like gonna
Huge
blow him up with a
intelligence
minigun, and then of course, boom, disobeying orders. Rooster shows up and blows it up, and then he gets shot down. Tom Cruise runs over to him and knocks him over, and is like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And then they're just both standing there, and they're kind of like both angry at each other for a second because it doesn't make sense.
It sort of fits Rooster's arc because he's like too cautious. He's too like his whole thing is like in the beginning he doesn't fly fast enough. Like he's too much kind of inside the system, and Cruise is trying to get him to come out and do don't think, just fly. And this is like the culmination of that. Like he
It's supposed to be the
disobeys
passing
orders
of the
and
torch.
comes
Like, he is
back
now-
and blows this thing up. And
he is now Top Gun.
disobeying.
Like,
Yeah.
if the movie is about how Tom Cruise becomes Top Gun, this is supposed to be the story of how Rooster becomes Top Gun, but he can't.
Except he's not allowed to fly the F-14 when they leave.
Exactly. It's the way that the boomers are squatting on all of the accumulated wealth of the post-war era.
Right.
It's like,
right.
oh, sorry, son, I'm holding on to this house. Fuck you. I'm holding on to this job. I'm not going anywhere, because that is the
it's
defining
also- and it-
characteristic of like the post-spiritual America, is that you can't accept death because we don't have a common vocabulary to make sense of it. So instead, we have to deny it until we are destroyed from outside. And this movie, yes, like after the crash, it really is his dream. And then you have Miles Teller there, who is like the audience telling him to wake the fuck up. The young people saying, "Hey, snap out of it, Grandpa. You aren't supposed to be here."
Well, as I was talking about Rooster, I gotta say this is probably the first movie I've seen Miles Teller in where I've actually enjoyed him quite a bit. I was not
Wasn't
bothered by
as
Miles
terrible
Teller
as usual.
I liked Rooster.
You've got to watch The Offer, Will.
Oh, okay.
He's terrible on that show. He is dreadful. He's trying to do. We said this with
Yeah.
Molly Lambert. He's trying to do Don Draper, but like if he was only ever cool and not sad or pathetic at all, and he gets, and so therefore is completely wooden. He is. Oh
Well,
god.
we got the real Don Draper in Top Gun
We got
Maverick.
the real Don Draper in this movie, like the malevolent force.
Yeah. And then I guess just two things we haven't discussed in the movie. Briefly, Jennifer Connelly, single mother, owns a bar. Like her character is just sort of slotted in there as the just perfunctory love interest. I guess like she was a waitress at the bar back when Tom Cruise, like she was probably
No.
15.
She was the Admiral's daughter.
She was the
they
Admiral's
mentioned her in the
daughter.
first one.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
Benjamin.
That was the Admiral's daughter.
They
Okay, I
mentioned
thought
that at the she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought she was some teenager that he had sex with back in the original era. Well, no.
Prove
But
that he wasn't gay. Yeah.
I was okay. That makes more sense that she's an admiral's daughter, because I just thought she was a single mother who was a bar owner that also owns like a 2-mast sailing vessel and a vintage Porsche. But okay, all you need to know about Jennifer Connelly, still 10 out of 10 smoke show, one of the hottest women of all
oh my
time.
God.
It's unbelievably gorgeous. She's got it going on. And then finally, we got to talk about Val Kilmer.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a very
Ghost.
Yes, it was a very like a poignant moment in the movie where Maverick and Ice see each other again, and they make clear in the plot of the movie that Iceman is dying of cancer, and speaking words is very painful for him. And this is of course referencing Val Kilmer's real life throat cancer that makes it very, very difficult for him to speak. But there's a moment I thought I was touched by the scene with Ice and Maverick. I thought it worked wonderfully, and it was just very nice to see them smile and embrace each other. Even because Ice talks to him through a computer, but then Val Kilmer does use his voice at the very end to say like the Navy needs Maverick.
They wrote that in because of the reality of Val Kilmer's cancer. That probably was not there. They wouldn't have made that choice without that, but it ends up working very well, because here you have, like with Maverick confronting decline, the memento mori right in front of his face of like what that reality of that is, and he gets to look at it and like have a moment, but then also just fundamentally just say not today, therefore not ever.
They should have had that when he chose to go back. They should have had him think of Iceman as like that would have been the choice of decline or sort of ecstatic extinction. That would have made a lot of sense.
Talk to me. He keeps saying, "Talk to me, Goose."
Talk to me, Goose.
Talk to me, Goose. And then Miles Teller at the end, like in his sort of moment of his crucible of life or death, he says, "Talk to me, Dad." And then at the end, when they've ended the civilian nuclear energy program. Everyone is cheering for them on the aircraft
No more
carrier.
clean water, folks. Congratulations.
Rooster and Maverick, they embrace like Ice and Maverick at the end of the first one. And Tom Cruise says to Miles Teller, he says, "Thanks for saving my life." And Miles Teller says, "It's what my dad would have done." And like that was the sort of cathartic moment of them both getting over the death of Goose.
I was hoping Goose was going to come back like
which is
Egon
weird.
in Ghostbusters.
You look over and he's just giving him the thumbs up on the
He gave it a
deck.
thumbs up. Yeah, that would have been cool.
No, it's like, and like also like Anthony Edwards is still alive, but if they had done like a CGI Anthony Edwards, where it's just like Leia in Rise of Skywalker.
But it's strange, right? Because as you said when we talked about the original one, Will, the end of that movie, when he throws Goose's dog tags into the ocean, that's when you're supposed to think he's gotten over the death. And yet we find out he's been obsessing about it for the last 30 years or whatever.
I think it's supposed to be like, I think they're trying to sell it as more than that because they throw in the thing about him pulling the papers. Like the reason that Rooster never blames him for his dad's death. That's just in the background.
That's
I'm
the
mad
real
about
point of conflict.
Is that he wouldn't let him join the Navy, and he couldn't tell him that his mom. What it boils down to is that his mom, Meg Ryan, who is dead also at this point, had told Maverick, "Don't let him do it. Don't let him join the Navy. He's got too much to prove, or he's not ready, or whatever." And he can't say that. He doesn't want to say that. Blame it on the mom. So he just says, I didn't think you were ready." But that's like the thing that they got to work through this time. And then they finally, at the end of
also, the ages make absolutely no sense. Wouldn't the kid have been like 50?
Replaced his father. He stepped into the role finally. Because now
the kid would be like 40 at
the Goose
point.
now.
Yeah.
He's now Goose.
You're right, Danny. The ages don't make sense. I mean, he should be older than Miles Teller. He should be not a lieutenant in the Navy anymore, basically, at this point, because it's been so long.
But these people are all embalmed. They're all crazy trying to make sense of the age people actors are in these fucking movies. None of it makes fucking sense.
And it was also
old ass
weird
guys
that they
playing young people. Remember when Jennifer Lawrence went on a string where she starred in like 4 David O. Russell movies where she was at least like 10, 15 years too young for the role?
Yes.
That's just what they do. It's like they're just like, I've got Teller. What can we put him in? What can we put this goofus in? Because he's clearly got his agent's got some juice because he's in everything, even though he sucks objectively. But like I said, he's okay in this. I think the mustache really helps.
It does. It ties his face together.
It ties his face
Actually,
together. It brings
Rooster's mustache.
Like
Rooster's mustache is like the only nod to homoeroticism in this movie. That's the only touch.
And it's just his dad.
That's the only touch of Finland that's in this movie.
He plays the Great Balls of Fire on the piano.
So that's actually really interesting because, like we were talking yesterday, in the context of the first Top Gun, that makes a lot of sense because there is that gay text that's just throughout the entire thing. But in this one, you have like the son dressed exactly like the father, looking like the father, playing what was already like oldies in the 1980s, and everyone singing along. It doesn't make any sense. It's so weird.
Drake. It would have been more
or anything.
He steps up to the old. He steps
I don't know.
That's
probably too old of a reference.
To an old player
gex?
piano.
You do 100 gex or whoever's at Coachella this year. Megan Thee Stallion. I don't know. Who would these guys like? Kings of
People
Leon?
love Jerry Lee Lewis.
He does no. He's Matt. He steps up to. He sidles up in the bar, pulls the plug out of the jukebox. Everyone's just like, "Oh, Rooster, he's not going to do it." Sidles up to an old player piano and just starts laying down some wet ass pussy.
He's played Lizzo, fucking melon.
Why do you guys think that there were, unlike a lot of these sort of nostalgia IP minds, there weren't a lot of people from the first one, which was kind of unique. There was no Slider, there was no Merlin, there was no other guys. That's pretty unique.
Tim Robbins
because,
probably too expensive to bring back.
He should have been back for like 20 seconds.
Because this movie, it's all about the psyche of Tom Cruise. You've got, you've got the figure of the woman, so there's only one of those, and then you've got the antagonist sort of figure of Iceman. There aren't that many people to port over. And then this one, they have their own like next gen Iceman in the form like they don't
Hangman.
Hangman, like he's there to kind of stand in for that role. And so like there are new people at the periphery, but at the center it can only be Tom Cruise and the very like close satellites of him, because it's all about him. Everybody else is not real the farther they get from him.
I like how he didn't
the
wear a
least
helmet.
real people of all in this movie. The least real movie, the least real people of all in this movie, just like the original Top Gun, are the totally dehumanized bogeys that they kill at the end of the movie.
The enemy pilots.
But like the enemy pilots, they got the
Perfect.
full visor down, full fucking sun shaded. You
They don't
can't
have
see their
any cool
faces at all.
nicknames
They don't
on
have
their hat.
They don't
Darth
have
Vader, man. Darth Vader. I mean, it's just that's the American Empire right there. That's what's perfect about the movie. It doesn't fucking matter who they are. They could be anyone. We just go and kill them wherever we want, whenever we want.
I really hope that the U.S. military can just really get off the. Yeah, hey, taxpayers, can we have a 6th gen fighter plane now?
Yeah.
Because please, because like we're in danger. Right? Our pilots, our naval aviators are being put at risk.
We need, actually what it boils down to is we need a 6th gen fighter because we need something for Tom Cruise to crash into the side of a mountain already. Because he keeps upping the ante and we've run out of things to kill him with. We have to build a new one that will actually do the job. Get him in an F-35 and let it decapitate it when he fucking tries to like bail out. That's his life.
Top Gun 3, the mission is, okay, it's an even more dangerous mission where they have to fly the F-35, but the weather forecast is like a 40% chance of rain.
Yeah. Just like shots of the paint falling off, drizzling away under the rain.
Plane, yeah.
It's literally rusting in front of you as it's flying through the air. His feet fall through the bottom. And then that would all, of course, be actually filmed. No special effects. And end with Tom Cruise finally just being annihilated the way that he wants to be, in glorious communion with the art of cinema.
Yes. Well,
literally sacrificing himself to keep movie magic alive.
That's why we love Tom Cruise. Like he puts it all on the line for movies. He was like, this movie will never be streamed, or it'll be streamed, but after a long theatrical release. He's holding out some light in the darkness for theater owners and theater chains everywhere. He's Mr. Movie Magic. It cannot be denied. Top Gun Maverick. My closing thoughts. I'll just simply restate again. It's an OT level 7 movie. And then, oh God, at the end of the movie, the last thing you see in memory of Tony Scott, teared up. Absolutely teared up.
Yep. This movie is the equivalent, spiritually, of 4 auditing sessions. Those normally go for $700 each for an hour. You can get that entire experience. You can get that amount of cleansing going on. You can get rid of that many thetans for the cost of a theater ticket. It's the bargain of the millennium. It's the bargain of the trillion years contract that you sign to become a slave of Sea Org. That is pretty funny that this guy is also a slave-owning, psychotic leader of a cult. Isn't that weird?
I think it's cool. I mean,
it just adds to the image, yeah.
And like I said, okay, did Lockheed Martin fund this movie? Is this just pure propaganda for American empire? Yes. Is the person who made it the leader of an insane cult? Also, yes. But the movie was so good, I'm considering supporting the U.S. military and joining the Church of Scientology.
It's true. It's like when you're explaining how hegemony works, like we always talk about it in terms of like fooling people and brainwashing or something, because like but reality is a lot of it is providing benefits, real pleasure.
It's attractive. It's
actually viscerally satisfying to see the stuff that Tom Cruise makes. And to have a Tom Cruise, you have to let him be kind of a god emperor of his own little universe. That's how powerfully he burns. And if we want to capture that on camera, we got to let him do that. It's the price we pay. Just like, the horrors of Empire, the price we pay for the theatrical experience that we get to enjoy it in. But we can't deny, it's like, it's a building block of Empire and everything, but it's also a thing that you get to watch. And isn't that nice? Better than not watching it, better than watching something that's less fun, because this movie ruled. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, it was super entertaining. Super entertaining.
I think we should wrap it up there for to conclude this session of the Fighter Weapons School. This has been Top Gun Week, and I'd like to thank Derek and Danny of the American Prestige podcast for joining us. Boys, if people would like to hear the crossover, the original Top Gun episode, or any other of your amazing back catalog or future episodes, where should they go?
AmericanPrestigePod.com. We're at Substack now, but you can find us there and check it out.
Call sign Vulcan, call sign Professor. I want to thank you for doing this training exercise with us. And then to Trick
You
Shot.
can ride our tails anytime.
Yeah. To Trick Shot, Squib. And if Felix were here, his call sign would be Sable. It would have to be. So,
Oh, God, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So for Squib, Sable, Trick Shot, and myself, Catboy,